watching the Forefront Church video podcast. And wherever you're at viewing online, we just want to say thank you and welcome. And one of the ways that we can help connect with you is we want to hear from you and where you're at and how we can help. And so head over to forefrontchurch.info after the message and click the Connect tab. It's a great way for us to help you along your spiritual journey as you connect with God and learn about Jesus. And so sit back, relax. We hope that you're challenged and encouraged from today's message. Welcome everybody online. How you guys doing this morning? You doing well? I have a question as we jump in today. As we've been in our series #Blessed, why do some people soar and some people, well, they just don't? And I need to kind of see by show of hands, and you guys who are watching online, you can throw a little hand emoji in there. Make sure it's an appropriate one. And so you can, how many of you are a big fan of insects and bugs? Like, people are like, oh wait, I thought he said I hate. Yeah, only a couple of you. We'll pray for you guys. For most of us, we are no-go on bugs, myself included. I'm not on that train with you, the few, the proud, the mighty, that are just happy about insects, especially when they get inside our house. Once an insect comes inside our house, now for some of you, you may not be about insects, but you go, you know what, when we find a bug in our house, we get it, and then we go outside, and we set it free. Because it's going to, not in my house. You walk into my house uninvited, you are a dead bug walking. If we find you, your little lifespan is over. God will make more of you. We'll figure that out. You are not welcome in our home at all. And so one of the things that my wife does, because she also is not about bugs, neither are our three daughters, is she'll put a cup on a bug, send me a picture of the cup, and say, come home and deal with the bug when you get home. Ladies or men, if this is your practice, stop that mess. Just kill the bug, okay? Just get brave and kill the bug. And this is even worse when it happens at our home when all of us are in the same room when the bug decides to make an appearance. You see, I'm surrounded by God-loving, amazing women, okay? 4 girls at our house, my wife and our 3 daughters, and we were in the living room the other day, our front room. We're just, watching TV, laughing, doing our thing, and out of the corner of my eye, what I thought I saw, which I was right, was this bug came out. Now, it was what many people will call a water bug. It's a cockroach, okay? You can go through all the hoops you want to jump through, light them on fire, do whatever you need to do, say, you know what, that's not, no, it's a cockroach. And so this thing that I think had a saddle on it, I'm not sure, it comes out. And the reason I wasn't sure, I saw it out of the corner of my eye, but I didn't even kind of pay attention to it per se, but I knew it was in our house because all 3 of our daughters screamed and then ran. They just ran out of the room, which I don't think is very kind because, why do I always got to be the guy to kill stuff? So they run out, and I look over at my wife, and I said, hey, there's a bug. And she is now just catching up to what has happened. And so when I tell her there is a bug, she hasn't even seen the bug yet. She screams, and she runs out of the room. And so I'm like, cool. And I go kill it, and I'm like, you know what, this is not okay. I'm going to go have a conversation with the rest of my household. So I walk out, I let the bug get in the recliner, turn on the TV, do whatever it's doing, and I have a conversation with my daughters and my wife. I was like, hey, I should not be the only one that's doing this. There's going to be days where I'm not here, to which one of them immediately said, well, that's why Mommy puts it on a cup on it and sends it to you so you can kill it. I'm like, no, that day stops today. We are going to be brave and we're going to kill him. And all three girls, almost like they had practiced it in unison, cross their arms and go, nah. Just all three of them look at me. So I'm like, all right, I guess this is me. And so I go in and I kill it. And as I'm walking out, sometimes I'll like put it at them but I didn't even do that. And all of them, as I walk through the room, are like this, against the back wall, like, don't get it near me. We didn't invite it in. We don't want it. You need to deal with it. We will never handle it. And I tried to explain to them that there's going to be a time where I'm not around and you're going to need to handle this, and I want to show you how to address it. And they're like, no, we're not going to handle it. We are never going to address a bug. There will always be somebody else around. That bug was not invited. It is not welcome, and you need to deal with it. And I was really frustrated at that time because I'm like, I'm not going to be that guy. You're going to do this, like you're going to have an apartment or a house one day or somewhere because you ain't always going to live with me. And you're going to need to deal with this. And I realized it for a brief moment. I was like, this is how God's interaction with me goes. Something that came in that shouldn't be there is there. And I expect God to just swoop in and handle it. And God goes, it's not supposed to be there. You have every opportunity to take control of the situation. And instead, you step back and cross your arms and go, God, you handle it. I am going to have no part in it. And even more so, what happens is that I invite some of those things into my life. I set up shop for them. I make a room for them. I make them nice and cozy. And God goes, that's where I need to be. Jason, I need you to say to that thing, get out. And I go, you handle it, God. Or even sometimes God says, you need to get rid of that thing. It's where I need to be. And I go, no, I kind of like it where it's at. I think far too often when God is having this interaction with us in our spiritual life, we have things that have been uninvited that come in that we let set up their own room and stay. There's things that we've invited into our life where God is supposed to be the one taking that spot, and that we just go, you know what, I like it better. And one of the biggest things that happens, past anger and frustration, whatever, that I see almost universally in people in varying degrees, is the way that we think that we know better than God does. And when God doesn't show up when we think he should, that we get anxious, we worry, we take it on ourselves. Worry is killing our culture. It's killing men and women from the inside out because they think they have to bear all the weight instead of saying, God, this is what you can do. God, I want to surrender to you. But instead we let worry take up a seat where God should be. See, I put it this way, that a blessed life is a connected life, connected with God. But you and I cannot connect fully to God until you release what's taking up residence where he should be. We would put it kind of plainly that there is a God-shaped hole in every man and woman of our very soul that only God can fill because we are separated from God by the brokenness of our lives. And God wants nothing more than to take up residence in that spot. But I do it, you do it, we all do it, whether you're here, you're watching online, where we have moments where we put other things in the place of that, and it feels very ill-fitting. We think that it's going to fill it, but it only takes up a portion of it. And over time, it ends up doing the very opposite that we thought. We thought, oh, that'll fill it. I'll be okay. And I'm going to worry, and I'm going to have this and that. And we could fill in the blank of what that thing is. And then God goes, I want to interact with your life. I want to change your life. And it's not that I couldn't. It's just that you've chosen to put something else where I need to be. And Jesus addresses this idea, this concept, this lifestyle that we've adopted of worrying and thinking we know better than he does. And it's over in the book of Matthew in the Bible in chapter 6. If you have a Bible, you could turn over there. If you have a digital Bible, you can pull that up. We give them away for free. If you don't have one, out at the Get Connected table in the lobby. Or if you're more digitally inclined, and for you guys watching online, you can go to forefrontchurch.info. Not .org. We have forefront.org, which is for like anybody looking for a church that's just kind of out there, our forefrontchurch.info is our digital hub that you could save to your home screen, bring up all kinds of things, and if you swipe over a couple times, there's a notes section that has everything we're looking at today. And Jesus shares a bit of this worry, this thing that weighs on us, this thing that we kind of, if we could be even more transparent, I think worry is one of those things that we actually excuse. We think it's kind of okay because it's under the guise of, well, if you're worrying about it, then you care a lot about it, so keep worrying. It's okay to worry about that because you really care deeply about and fill in the blank. And God goes, what if you cared deeply enough that you trusted me with the very thing that you think you're in control of? And this is what Jesus shares over in this passage of Matthew chapter 6. Starts this in verse 25. It says, therefore I tell you, do not worry about your life, what you will eat or drink, or about your body, what you will wear. Is life not more than food, and the body more than clothes? It says, look at the birds of the air. They do not sow or reap or store away in barns, and yet your heavenly Father feeds them. Are you not much more valuable than they? Can any one of you, by worrying, add a single hour to your life? You know, I find it interesting that the Bible was written much longer ago, and yet we have science, and people say, oh, the science and the Bible are at odds. Science and God are at odds. And I find it fascinating that Jesus would share these words about can it add an hour to your life? And well, when we look to science, science only reaffirms what Jesus is saying here. If you worry, medically the body begins to be more susceptible to disease because you are stressing out so deeply over something that your body gets worn out. And so as your body gets worn out, you are more open to receiving and getting sick. Do you know that as you worry, it changes the wiring within the brain? So that when another situation arises where you could either take control or trust God, or an outside source, if you will. If you're not connected with God today and you're not sure about that stuff, I understand. But here at Forward, we say that God is the one that sustains us. Did you know that by worrying, it will rewire your thinking so that you will, when something arises, instead of trusting God, you'll start to feel overwhelmed again. And each time that it happens, you'll much more easily be overwhelmed. It actually does the opposite of what you thought it would do. I'm going to worry because I'm going to figure out the situation. You might not be around to figure it out because you'll wear your body down so deeply that you won't be breathing anymore to be able to handle the situation that you think you're in control of, which you're not. Continues on. It says, and why do you worry about your clothes? See the flowers of the field grow, and they do not labor or spin. Yet I tell you, not even Solomon, which is a man who lived back during the times of the Old Testament, in all of his splendor, was dressed like one of these. If that is how God clothes the grass of the field, which is here today, gone tomorrow, thrown into the fire, will he not much more clothe you? You of little faith. So do not worry, saying, what shall we eat, or what shall we drink, or what shall we wear? For the pagans run after all of these things, and yet your heavenly Father knows that you need them. But seek first his kingdom and his righteousness, and all of these things will be given to you. God first, needs will follow. God first, trusting in him, situations will come to a conclusion. Trust him first, that he will be the one that's able to handle these situations that are going on in your life and in mine. And the rest of those things will be given to us as well. Not that we're going to be seated and just living like kings and queens, but that our needs would be taken care of. Notice I said needs and not wants. You may want a 4-story house, but what you need is a roof over your head. You may not even get the house that you own. You may be living with a friend, but you would have shelter that God would provide for your needs. It says, therefore, do not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will worry about itself. Each day has enough what? Trouble of its own. You see, I want to specifically kind of park money over to one side because I hear this from people time and time again. And if you're a believer, what God is sharing, what Jesus is sharing in this exchange, in this sermon that he's preaching, is saying, if you trust me, I will make sure that you are cared for. And I would say in my 20 plus years of doing ministry and even longer being connected to the local church as my parents brought us and raised us up in that, I have yet to find one individual in well over 2 decades that has ever, if they say, I'm trusting God, I'm following him, I'm doing as he says, that has ever been without their daily needs. I've yet to find it. You cannot show me someone who says, I'm going to follow God, I'm going to do as he says, I'm going to trust him, that is not cared for by the hand of God. You can't. I've yet to find that person. You say, Jason, well, there's people that say they follow God and they have plenty of debt and they have all this other stuff. I would say, did God make you have debt? Did God make you get the credit card that made you do the thing, that made you do it? Did God do that or did you do that? Well, things are tough and things are hard and we couldn't have this and we couldn't have that. I go, could it be that God didn't place circumstances on us, but we chose to walk in circumstances financially that led us to a place where things are difficult? Or we walked down a road where for years, I didn't honor God. I got in a lot of debt. And then I started following God, and I didn't go, God, you didn't take away my debt. What in the world? I didn't all of a sudden go and get baptized, trusting God, get out in my bank account, and all the people sending me bills said, you follow Jesus, you're good. That just didn't happen. Because my old self did it. And so let's kind of park finances and go, maybe, just maybe, the situation that we find ourselves in might be part of our own doing. Let's not point in, because this is kind of one of those messages when we talk about worry, we go, ooh, I can't wait to share that with somebody. Somebody needs to hear about this. Or the person next to you, man, the person, you worry all the time. Could it be that we need to hear something like this because we have things that creep up in our own life that we've made bigger than they really need to be? Or I love the way this Swedish proverb puts it, worry often gives a small thing a big shadow. That there's when a lot of us had the power out when the storm came through, we had the power out, and so our daughters got out with the flashlights and they were doing like the shadow puppet things. And they were doing whatever. And so something that was very little and just a hand on the wall looked like a monster. And far too often, when something creeps up into our life, we make it much bigger than it is. But I don't want us to think that just because something is small, somebody else may have it worse, that it's not something that's important to God. And I asked for a volunteer before service got started. So a volunteer is going to come on up here for a second. You guys give it up for him. So he comes on up. He's super excited about this. Everybody say hi to Greg. Hi. All right. And so, Greg, this is a very simple card game. This is called War. You've played War before?
Yes, sir.
You all right? And I've played War. How many of you guys have played the game War card game? All right. It's fairly simple. I'm going to give you half a stack. I shuffled them up randomly. Actually, you know what? You can take whichever stack you want. Which one do you want? It doesn't
I trust
matter.
you.
All right. You trust me. All right. That's your
Maybe.
first strike one. So,
Yep.
So I want to talk about this because this conversation comes up a lot. In the game of War, for instance, we're going to have cards. I'm going to flip over a card. You're going to flip over a card. I have a joker. Joker's above all. I win. All right, we're going to try this again. I'm going to flip over a card. You flip over a card. You should have took that. It's so we're going to go to war. Here we go. And so we lay down I declare, because we both had aces. Here we go. So I have a 5, you have a 2. And so I couldn't have planned that, but we're going to do that. And then we're going to go over here. And so we're going to just get all the cards. And we're going to keep flipping over. I have a 2 now. You have a joke, so clearly you win that one. And so the game is, whoever has the largest card, they what? Win. And so the person that has the card that's the lowest, they're a loser. Yeah, someone got a little too excited about being a loser. You're a loser. Easy, easy. Now, we could go on and do this, where I flip a card, Greg flips a card, and so you have a king, I have a 6, you win. Now, there's things that I worry about in life. Being a dad, for instance, I have 3 daughters, and so one of the things that I worry about is what's going to happen to them into the future, is we raise them and do those things, and so there's all kinds of things. I know, Greg, you're a dad too, you're married. Like, what's like something little that you worry about? Like, you just name anything.
Things I can't control.
So things you can't control. So like a job. Okay. So because you work with your hands, you're construction. And so jobs finished. So I worry about that. You worry about that. And so we lay down our worries, and then of course we get war. We're going to battle it out because I'm going to think, man, my worry that I have is definitely bigger. Oh, wait, it's not. You know what? That's my worry doesn't matter. Your worry's bigger. You win. And here's what happens. As we meet people, maybe it's another mom or another dad. Maybe it's somebody that we work with. Maybe it's somebody in another country. You say, well, you live in America, and so you don't have a whole lot to worry about. There's people in other places that they have all sorts of things to worry about. So why would you do that? But if I were to have the same interaction with, I've been to Vietnam before, and there's a lady by the name of LeMay, and I share with LeMay, you know what, I worry about my kids. And LeMay would say, you know what, I worry about my husband, you see, because I go to work, and husbands in that culture for a lot of villagers, don't go to work. And so she's worried about the finances. And that's difficult. That's a worry. And I go, but you know what, LeMay, well, that's heavy, I think. And she would say, you know what, that's heavy too. Or as I sit with a mom in the village, and we talk about being a parent, I say, I worry about my kids. And she would say, you know what, I worry about my kids' character too. When they go out and do things like, who are they going to be? And then when a passage like this comes up and it says the worries that you and I have, well, God wants to take away those worries. The worries I have, the worries you have, the worries that Greg has, the worries that someone on the other side of the world has, God would look at all those and go, all of them are important to me, and no worry that you have is bigger than someone else's because the context matters. You guys give it up for Greg. Thank you so much for coming up here. You see, I have a 3-year-old daughter who, when we go to the store and she brings in her little purse, and she leaves that purse in the store and we leave, and then she goes, oh no, I left my purse. In her mind at 3 years old, the same type of emotions that come up are the same that come up with me when I think about them going out into the world. Or the same type of emotions that a parent has in a village in Vietnam about their kid's character. The same as my friend LeMay who lives there who thinks about finances. You see, God cares about every one of those. And so what I don't want you to hear is sometimes we do amplify these when God can take control, but we don't want to dismiss that they're real. And they are real for every man, woman, and child across all socioeconomic, racial boundaries. You name it, it is real. And so how do we deal with that? Well, we give it to the one who takes control of it in the first place. Because it's not ours to worry about, it's His to control, it's His to handle, it's His to conquer. The writer in the Old Testament, in the book of Isaiah, said, therefore the Lord waits to be gracious to you, and therefore He exalts up, lifts Himself up to show mercy to you. For the Lord is a God of justice. Blessed are all those who wait for Him. What that's sharing is, listen, that you and I can go to Him and bring our stuff and bring our hurts and bring our pains, and that He is still God and He is still good. And those who bring their cares, hurts, joys, and sorrows to Him, He will care for you. But I think we have to reach a place where we actually believe that. Tim Keller puts it this way. Says, you don't realize Jesus is all you need until Jesus is all you have. Till Jesus is all you have. And I meet far too many people that have to reach rock bottom before they realize that there is an up. That I'm going to worry, that I'm going to hurt, that I'm going to try to control things. You're going to put yourself in the grave and you're still not going to be able to surrender to God what is God's because you're taking it into your own hands. And so I guess I would just ask us this question. What is desperately trying to leave your life that doesn't belong, but you hold on to it anyway? Each and every one of us brought a bag that nobody else could see in with us. A thing that we care about and that we try to maintain control over. For me, it's with my kids. For Greg, it's thinking about that next job and is it going to happen? Is it not? Is it going to fall through? I have a friend who does outdoor construction, and every time the weather and it rains, everyone is celebrating. Or when like a storm hits and everyone gets canceled off school, everyone's like, yay, no school, my kids are home. And what he's thinking is, I'm not making money today. See, each and every one of us have those things that we hold on to. What is it for us? What will it take for us to say, I want to let it go? Well, I think the biggest piece of that is asking that God would help us to take it away, which is why Jesus follows this teaching up in the very next chapter. It's the same sermon where He shares about asking Him. He said, ask and it will be given to you. Seek and you will find. Knock and the door will be opened. For everyone who asks receives. The one who seeks finds, and the one who knocks, the door will be open. Now, I don't want you to hear this and go, I cannot wait to go home and ask God for a Tesla. Okay? This is not what this passage is saying. Because as we build up on, this started back in Matthew chapter 5 all the way through chapter 7. And what it's doing are building blocks of character. And Jesus has already taught to the crowd about what it means to follow God. Humble yourself and you will be exalted. Those who are humble in spirit will be blessed. Those who seek after me will find me. And so as he's moving through these pieces, he's saying you would have a heart that is for God, that is for the things of God. So when we get to a place where we go, God, I don't want to carry around my baggage. I don't want that to fill that void. I don't want to invite that in and set up shop and make a room for it. That needs to go. God, I'm going to ask you to take care of it. And God will provide good gifts because he is a good Father. Continues on. It says, which of you, if your son asks for bread, will give him a stone? Or if he asks for a fish, will give him a snake? That just sounds awful. It said, if you then, though you are evil. Now I want to pause here. You might be like, wait a second, I did not come to church today to be told I was evil. That is not okay. If you go back to the original language and all this stuff, what this is saying is that each and every one of us has sin in our life. We all make mistakes. So if you can read that, if you say, though you are evil, though you make mistakes, though you have sinned, though you have fallen short, if you have ever done something that is not for God and is instead for yourself, then what he's painting a picture that we're all on the same playing field. Said that even though you and I have fallen short, but we know how to give good gifts to our children, how much more will God the Father in heaven give good gifts to those who ask him? And so we battle in this worry about our families, worry about finances. And I'm not talking about anxiety. Anxiety is a separate piece that can play into worry, but anxiety is something, and we've had series about this, where it can be a medical condition that you get treatment for, that you get medication for, that you go to counseling for, this kind of tiered effort. Now, God can move even in your anxiety, but I'm talking about these things that we worry, that we do get anxious so much about, that we go, God, I know you have control, but I want it. It's like a 2-year-old that's hanging out with other 2-year-olds and they see a kid pick up the toy that they just put down that they didn't want then, but now they want it. And so what do? They walk over and they go, I want it. You give it to me. And we do this with God. Say, God, I'm going to have these things in my life and I'll put this down and put that down and whatever. And then something starts to anxiety and worry and they kind of bubble up and they go, God, I know you have it, but I want it. Instead, we need to ask him to take it away from us. We need to hand it over. God, give me the strength to give this to you. You see, worry assumes that we know better than God. Because God is the one that handles things, and then we think we can handle it. Why? Because we're grown, right? For those of you guys who are adults in the room, you feel like, man, I know how to work at my job, and whose job is that? That's my job. And I know how to handle my house. Why? Because it's my house. And I know how to handle my payments on my car and my bills and whatever because they're mine. And then God enters the picture into our lives, and the life of a believer is that I give all things to him. I trust in him. And then God enters into the picture, and then we have things that are happening in our life, and we go, God, I want that, and we worry about that. It says, God, I don't trust you. I want it for me. And so when I worry about my daughter's future, what I'm saying to God is, God, even though I work hard as a parent to follow you, even though my wife does, even though we do together, even though we raise our daughters well, and we do these things, God, I'm worried about the outside circumstances. God, I'm worried that they'll stray away from what we're trying to guide them in. And as I sit in worry and as I get anxious, what I'm saying to God is, God, I don't trust that you will protect them, that you will move in your promise, and I think I know better. Which is why he follows it up with asking him, praying to him, because while worry assumes we know better than God, prayer confirms to us that we don't. As I sit and pray to God, I realize that he's the one that has it in control. And he said, Jason, I just want you to wait and be patient. Anybody here enjoy just sitting and being patient? Nah, not a single person. Why? Because we want all kinds of things when we want them, right? Everything that we want. We sit in a drive-through and we want it fast. If it's not fast, well, you call it fast food when it's not fast food. We go home and we have high-speed internet. And the moment that it takes more than 0.05 seconds to go to space and get back, we're like, oh, high-speed internet. Don't even tell me about that until you sat through dial-up. You know nothing. You're hunting down CDs from AOL to get internet. We want everything so fast. Prayer confirms that we don't, and it's God telling us to be patient. It's God telling us to stop and pause. And we have such a hard time pausing, of listening. But that's the very thing that God is calling us to stop and listen and trust Him. Which is why he points us back to this, that a connected life is a blessed one. But we can't fully have that connection until we release what's taking up residence where He should be. I just want to ask you very plainly, what needs an eviction notice right now in your spiritual life? What needs to be handed its papers and kick it to the curb and tell it to go? What did you walk in with, that bag that no one else saw, that invisible one? For some of us, we just have a backpack of it that we walked in of stuff, of anger, of pride, whatever, and it's gotten heavier and heavier. Now it feels like it's chained to us. For some of us, we had to hook it up to the back of our car because we drove it in. We drove in a Ryder truck of all the stuff. What needs that we brought needs to be left here to die so that we can live? What needs to be served its eviction notice so that we can go and do the things God has called us to do and live the kind of life that God has called us to live, free of worry, free of anxiety? Because as somebody who battles with anxiety, I can tell you that I am free from it. Do I take medication? Yes. Do I go occasionally to a doctor to talk about it? Yes. Am I free from it? Yes. Because God has intervened in my life and it does not have control over me anymore. And if you worry, if you let things get above God, God wants you to send it to the curb, leave it here, and walk away free. But only that happens in the name of Jesus. What are you going to give their papers today? Tell it to get out. Because God needs to take up residence where you've let that worry and that anxiety take place. Because that can happen today. But the only person that can make the choice to hand the papers over and tell it goodbye, because God will help you with all of it, you have the choice to move in that. What will you do? Would you pray with me? Thanks for tuning in to the Forefront Church video podcast. Our hope and prayer is that this has left you encouraged and challenged you in your faith. And you might have some questions and some ways that you want to figure this out, and we want to help with that. Head over to forefrontchurch.info, and there's a couple different ways that you can connect. Click the Connect tab and let us know how we can be praying for you, or a staff member can be contacting you this week. Maybe you have just been encouraged by this and want to support the ministry here at Forefront Church. You can click the Giving tab, as well as other tabs that are in there to help you along in your journey with God. And so we're thankful for you. Thanks for tuning in, and we cannot wait to see you again here online on the video podcast. We love you, and we'll see you then.